So we are collecting probably over 4 billion data points a day, and we are providing app estimates on about 1 million to 1.5 million apps on a daily basis.
Haven't you always wanted to have an all-seeing eye of Sauron to see exactly what your competitors are doing? I know I have.
Mhm.
Welcome to Mobile Heroes Uncensored. Today we're talking about data, but not your marketing data. We're talking about competitor data or maybe competitive landscape data. Today, my co-host Peggy Ann Saltz and I are chatting with someone who sees more data than perhaps 99.9% of us, maybe all of us almost, which isn't to say, of course, that he's the Dark Lord of Mordor. Peggy, who are we chatting with?
No, it's not that, but, does bring a bit of insight to our Middle Earth existence, John. We have Jonathan Kay, founder and CEO of Apptopia. Apptopia is the app insights and intelligence company that counts clients including Google, Zoom, Visa, NBC, so people are coming to this destination for the data. He's also a mobile pioneer entering the market, maybe possibly not quite before us, John, but back in 2011.
Yeah,
Uh,
old timer.
Old timer on a mission to add transparency to the mobile ecosystem through model data estimates and create a level playing field. And this passion for collecting and analyzing billions of complex data points is perhaps only equaled by his own growth mindset. As he puts it, and I quote, "It's easy to be good and really hard to be great." So, with that mindset, let's strap in what I will think will be for a very good show. Welcome, Jonathan.
What are you talking about? Apparently, it's easy to be good. So, we got to aim for great here, right? Welcome, Jonathan.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you guys for having me. I'm super pumped to be here.
So are we. We're looking forward to this. Is kind of a new thing we're doing with Mobile Heroes Uncensored. We're doing some stuff, obviously, with the Mobile Heroes. We're doing some stuff with experts in the space and data experts as well. So blow our minds a little bit. How much data do you collect? How many apps? Give us some of the numbers.
Yeah. So we are collecting probably over 4 billion data points a day, and we are providing app estimates on about 1 million to 1.5 million apps on a daily basis. We have data on all apps that are in the store, but not more than 1 million apps are actually getting downloaded on any given basis. So it's just different levels of granularity.
Yeah, I think that could all fit on my laptop. I mean, 4 billion points. Run that off a server in my closet.
Listen, the new
So
MacBook Pros are pretty good, John. I think if you get the right one, you might be okay.
how do you get all that data?
Yeah, so I would say it pretty much breaks into two components. A lot of it is like good old fashioned web scraping, like public domain. And the challenge there is collecting geographic granularity and like intraday granularity, like collecting metadata on apps throughout the day as it's changing pretty much hourly and by country for every app. And then the kind of more proprietary data set is we do have like well over 100,000 app developers that directly share their app analytics accounts with Apptopia. And so we're able to collect kind of real download revenue and usage data from those 100,000 plus apps that are data partners of ours.
So the numbers are impressive. Of course, the trends are the cool thing, right? Watching those trends. And you can see that in the apps. And you've seen that. I've read your reports. Your blog is full of these great articles about, this was the breakout app or this was the great trend. So we're at the beginning of 2022. Won't go there. I'll look backwards. 2021. What surprised you most in terms of app trends, breakout hits, whatever blew your mind, Jonathan?
Yeah, one of the like one interesting thing is I've been thinking a lot lately just about interoperability. And forgive me if I mispronounce that word, but it's uncensored, so I assume I'm allowed to make mistakes
You were
here.
perfect.
Yeah, is like if you look at what COVID did to mobile, it like dramatically increased the use of it. So like we did a really interesting report looking at like Sam's Club versus Costco, and Costco always ate Sam's Club's lunch, But during last 2 years, Sam Club's invested into mobile significantly more, even just like stopping you from having to go to a checkout register by using, you can actually scan your items and check out and print a receipt on your phone, like things like that. Kind of all makes sense, I think, logically. I think what I was surprised not to see more of is like people integrating with like other devices. So I'm kind of on a CarPlay kick, specifically, primarily because now like we're starting to go into the office a little bit. I moved into the suburbs, spend a lot more time in my car than I'm used to. And I'm still surprised at the number of apps that have created a car experience for their mobile app. And if you guys have read our content, you know we've been kind of boasting pretty aggressively Dunkin Donuts because
Mhm.
Dunkin Donuts integrated. They were actually the first and only food chain right now to integrate with CarPlay and allow you to reorder your favorite coffee um, with your hands on the wheel, pay for it, and direct your car to the closest Dunkin' Donuts so you can pick up your coffee
Wow.
shop. And like when I hear that, I'm like, that is a damn good use of technology. But when you think about, you think Starbucks, right? You think Starbucks is the
Yes.
innovator in that. And like, so I just think it's interesting that trend hasn't like taken off yet.
Hmm.
That is amazing. I love that. You would expect Starbucks to have that because Starbucks has been such a leader in mobile and mobile pay and mobile wallet and all those other things. Never buy a Tesla if you like CarPlay, by the way. It's never coming. Um,
Interesting.
but let's look ahead. 2022. We're in January as we record this. I think it'll come out in January still. What are some of the app and mobile trends that you already see evolving?
Yeah, so there's two that kind of jump out to us. The first is our team has started to see like what they're calling like group or social commerce apps. So this is like Pindua Dua and Facili, which I believe is in Latin America. And so it's like allowing people to purchase products and mass together and get like discounts. This feels like awesome because like my wife is going through a trend where she's buying like used handbags and like this whole market for Poshmark and Rebag and like Tradesy, and there's all these really interesting apps that are allowing you to buy things that you want in good condition at a lower rate. And this is like a completely different vector, which is like you can either buy used, you can buy in larger quantity. Kind of makes sense. It's what Amazon does for us, but Amazon obviously eats some of that margin. And so, like, I think it's an interesting trend to see how, like, if that kind of comes to the US. And I'm surprised that it's not here already, honestly.
That's
Um,
really interesting that you say that because I just did a story on Forbes about Back Market, which raised $510 million Series E on some multi-billion dollar valuation. And that's exactly what they do. And apparently, the re-commerce market is worth $40 billion annually. That's the first time I heard of the re-commerce market.
It's big also in Europe, I'd have to add, John, because it's sustainable, right?
mm,
So everyone's going in for it. We have Vinted over here. I think it comes from Lithuania. Don't quote me on that one, but the whole idea is that shopping is good. Something good.
Oh, you can shop and buy stuff and still feel good about yourself.
Yes,
I get it.
because
Okay.
you are reusing materials. It's good for the environment. Not great maybe for the budget, but it's a good thing. It's good, and women wanna hear that it's good to shop a lot. The more we shop, the more we save the planet. I'm just kidding.
no, I like it. And like, it does align because the second trend I would have told you is that we've seen like pretty like interesting leading indicators that augmented reality in shopping is going to be a bigger trend in 2022. So this could be anything from like, how does a dress look on you to how does makeup, like with what Sephora is doing with like, let me show you what makeup would look like on you to
Mhm.
taking a photo and like looking at what the photo looks like on a certain spot in your wall. Um, I think there's some interesting trends there that like kind of align pretty closely with what you're saying, Peggy, which is like they impact the perception of the experience. Like it makes you feel good because you can see now what something looks like before you buy it. And like this emotional piece of the shopping, I think you kind of nailed that one on the head.
Mhm. I mean, talking about articles, John, I've been watching, you also did a really good one about the social experience. So, you see this all coming together with the live streaming and the shopping and the good and the purpose. I think we're on to a mega trend.
Mhm. Mhm. Spend more money in 2022. That's what I heard.
It is really interesting because I was gonna follow up that trend question on how can app marketers and publishers take advantage of those things, and just one thing that obviously comes to mind, you mentioned the AR pieces, and Peggy's brought in the re-commerce stuff, and if you put those 2 together and you put sort of consumer-facing AR stuff that you can simply scan it really quickly with your any phone, any smartphone, and then somebody can say, "Oh, this is how the purse looks like," or, "This is how big it is compared to me." That would be a big deal for me. I mean, am I getting a small purse? Am I getting a big purse? Sometimes in a picture, it's not that easy to tell. That could be an interesting takeaway.
John, I almost always buy things on Amazon that are miniature by accident. So this is like a real human need for me. Please keep me posted. I'm
I
invested officially.
Isn't that a Wish thing? I mean, like, that's what I see all the time about for Wish. I bought this dress on Wish and it fits my child or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Back to work.
Yep.
Back to work. So, data, information is power. It's the source of competitive advantage. Let's talk about competitive intel for a moment. If you're looking at your competitors in a space, you're a marketer, what numbers do you want to focus on when you're saying, this is how I want to apply the data?
There's lots of like talk about specific metrics, anything from daily, monthly active users, how much time people spend in app. I think like there's only three things you really need to care about, which is how many new users, how many existing users, and what's your retention rate. And so, for instance, like you might see that app A has a growth in their user base. However, like the fact that their user base grew at 5% may or may not be interesting depending on how much their downloads, how much their net new users grew, right? Maybe they grew downloads at 25% and they had a, like when you logged onto the app, like DoorDash, I just downloaded the DoorDash app and I just wanted to look into a restaurant and they wouldn't actually let me see their restaurant list on mobile without signing up first. Even though when I go to their website, I can search there. And for me, I was like, that was a mistake because my wife was asking me a specific question. They added friction and then I left. Whereas if the restaurant was on DoorDash and I could have seen that, I would have then signed up, right? And so the relationship that exists between downloads and growth in downloads and growth in new users is really important. And I always suggest that people analyze that by region. So, like, if you were analyzing Netflix, you wouldn't want to measure Netflix downloads in the United States because it's more or less a saturated market for Netflix. So, you might be analyzing Netflix health by looking at their retention rate domestically and their growth rate internationally, right? And like, you probably do the same thing for other players like Facebook. And so typically, like, pick the metric that makes the most sense for your business, either downloads or usage within those buckets. And then you really want to understand the relationship between them. That's typically where we see the biggest trends kind of pop up.
I really like that. I think
Yeah.
that's good insight. I haven't heard it expressed that way before. What you made me think of with the DoorDash thing is the reason I never signed up for Wish. Sorry, Wish is coming up. I don't know. I have no idea why. This is totally random. But the reason I've never signed up is because they want you to sign up before you can actually see those products. And I'm sure that's a very deliberate choice. And I'm sure that it works for them because they keep doing it and others do it as well. But for me, it's like, no, until I can
Yeah.
see what's in there, I'm not going to actually subscribe to your service or sign up. That is pretty interesting. Let's talk about competitive intel and opportunities. We, of course, see a lot of big studios, big publishing houses out there who are always looking at different niches, maybe different games, maybe different types of apps as well. Can you use competitive intel to find and identify those new opportunities? How do you do that?
Yeah. So, well, I'll maybe just start with gaming. So, one of the biggest kind of really positive developments in competitive intelligence, and I'll just speak to Apptopia's perspective, but we're not the only person who does this, is we now actually found a way to programmatically identify the gameplay of an app, which might be like hidden object apps, bubble shooter apps, match three apps. We're able to identify intellectual property that's in the app. Is it Minions? Is it Marvel Universe? Is it Harry Potter, etc.? And these like I'm going to call them kind of like just segments of data or like additional classifiers. They allow you to analyze data in a different way, which is like, hey, if I'm going to build an endless runner, am I more likely to have a higher average revenue per user if it's like Harry Potter running or Mickey Mouse or a Minion, right? And we all kind of smile about it, but it like these audiences are different, and like in different periods of time, these audiences have different levels of engagements and different economic thresholds. And so like even just your ability to analyze intellectual property today is through the roof. Um, we find that like more often than not, intellectual property is something that gaming studios hold near and dear, meaning they typically have some like skin or theme, and they're just trying to figure out, all right, like I have these characters that I love, these little furry monsters, and like what is the game mechanic that people want to play? Or what game mechanic more closely ties with my monetization strategy? So maybe if you're a huge studio, you have huge leverage with ad networks, you want to monetize via advertising, there's probably specific game mechanics, specific ways that you can monetize your intellectual property that lean more toward that versus ones that create friction around maybe player development or building or like speeding up time to some benefit for the user. And so being able to look at games differently, and I think we'll get to this later in the conversation, but like games are now starting to have lots of functionality inside
Mhm,
them, and they're
mhm.
using different functionality for different reasons. And so understanding what gameplays are popular in certain times, I think is going to become really important for people to engage with their audience, because gamers are gamers, right? There's so much competition for attention. You need to not only have the right gameplay, but it needs to be relevant at the right time that people are interested in that.
I've played Temple Run for years, and I have Subway Surfers as well, and you just made me want an endless runner game with a minion that has a little bit of fun in it, with the minion doing some slightly evil things occasionally, in addition to running forever, so there we go.
It's called Minion Rush, by the way. It's like very,
It
very, very,
exists.
very popular game. My nephew loves it.
Well, obviously, you can grow through knowing the mechanics, and that's really cool that that's one way of framing the data that you're doing. But, growth is also, yeah, it's impacted by marketing attribution. That's been a massive issue in 2021. It's going to be with us for 2022, maybe forever. Um, what are some of the challenges you've seen around attributing growth, app growth, to specific factors?
Yeah, everything's getting more blended, and
Mm,
like I don't know if you guys share the same like agita or like heartburn that comes from just saying the word AI. Like it's like bothers me nowadays. I don't even like talking about it because it feels so cliche already. But like my interpretation of that is that people are just blending more signals. So I'll just give you like one example, which is one of the biggest ways that you can grow as an app developer is based on your organic search rank. So when people are searching specific keywords, how high up does your app rank? For people who are less familiar with this would be like Google search rank, right? And we call it ASO, App Store Optimization, in mobile. But the amount of factors that Apple and Google are now publicly incorporating into this, it all becomes circular. So like your ratings and your reviews impact your search rank. Your downloads impact your search rank. And so all of these things that you're doing, they all have some circular impact on how you acquire users. And so it does feel like you need to have some success in order to get more success. And so, we've seen this a lot with advertising is I'm going to spend money on advertising to just get the engine started, right? Like just get the juices flowing and then I'll be good. And I think my advice there, and I apologize if you didn't ask for me to give my advice yet, but my advice would be like, I think product has never mattered more to marketing is my like maybe annoying answer to marketers out there. But like, I think collaboration between product and marketing is going to be essential for the success for user acquisition in the coming year or two.
So I'd like to follow up with that. You've talked about the challenges. One is it's blended, right? And there's tons to look at. But then You also want to know when you are succeeding, and success is fleeting, right? You think, oh, I'm up and I'm featured, and then, it's a golden ticket, and it's not. It's fleeting success. So, what is it that makes a spike in numbers really matter? So, when is a spike in numbers just a blip?
You did kind of lead nicely to that, which is like a featured spot would be an example of a blip. Press article would be an example of a blip. We're seeing more and more like Instagram influencers and TikTok influencers actually having like news story like impacts on app downloads. Those typically feel like blips to me. Not to over optimize on like search, like keyword search, like ASO, but
Mhm.
when Apple and Google's algorithms think that your app is of higher quality, it is more sustainable, right? And so this is like super crazy, but we're seeing this trend in our data right now, where the Frontier app, like the airline Frontier, it is dramatically increasing its search rank for the keyword United Airlines, which is just like a super interesting trend that like someone at both of those companies should be aware of. But it went from being the 15th ranked app to like the fourth or fifth ranked app for one of their competitors' brand names. That means that Apple and Google are actually seeing users search for United Airlines and download the Frontier app.
Hmm.
Maybe there's some trend going on in travel that I'm just not an expert on and I'm not aware of, but like that is like a non-blip. Like I bet you that's going to generate awareness and user acquisition and ticket sales for Frontier for some period of time to come. And so again, like investment into things that the algorithm views as positive that get your search rank up, even if that's a higher volume of keywords or for really important keyword getting higher, it's just increasing like the breadth of how you can acquire users.
That is a marketer's worst nightmare right there, is that somebody is searching for you on your own brand and they are choosing something else in the search results that's coming up to them. That's really interesting, and I would wanna know that immediately as a marketer and find out what I can do to change that.
Right. And like I have no idea. Like genuinely, I haven't dove deep enough, but like I bet you there's some route issue or product issue. Again, in the collaboration between product and marketing, there's some deficiency outside of just the app's name or what's on their public app store page, which is causing people to do that. And then a good marketer will like apply pressure, right? Like
Hmm.
twist the knife once it's in there. And so again, I think collaboration between those functions is going to be crucial in digital, just in general, moving forward.
Among the many things that people learn on Mobile Heroes Uncensored is that marketers need knives. So and they twist them occasionally.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well,
Well put.
let's go here. We're going into 2022, and you may have already blown your thunder here and given one of your tips. What are your top 3 tips for mobile marketers heading into the new year?
I'll give one kind of big one, which is like I think people need to accept what's happening with attribution. And so like the attribution industry has changed. And I see so much content today that says like, well, like we've created a new version of this. And I'm not going to go like super deep into that because I'm sure you guys have produced a lot of content on the topic. But I think when something goes away, people just try and find the thing that's like the closest to the thing that went away versus accepting that change has happened and like embracing a new style.
Mm.
So I'm not a mobile marketer. Like I'm just like entrepreneur. Okay. And what we've seen be really successful for ad networks, and we work with a lot of ad networks, is like investing more into like contextual advertising. And so an example of that would be, and I'm just making up fake examples here, guys, but like an example of that would be like imagine you're Angry Birds and you find out that like people who play Angry Birds also play like Tetris, which is like a very different type of puzzle game than Angry Birds. But you find that there's a relationship between like people who like to, play an Angry Bird style puzzle and people who like an actual shape and objects type of puzzle. You could actually take that, use this type of like gameplay tagging that exists in the industry today to take all the other apps that look like Tetris, and you can actually feed that as a whitelist into your ad network. and start to like advertise not just based on what attribution is saying is working, but also based on like user muscle memory, right? Like I'll never forget Uber. I don't know if this still exists, but like Uber found that people played puzzle games while in Ubers, right? And so they actually like bought out a ton of EA's inventory for a couple weeks as a result of like wanting to acquire as many Tetris users as possible because they found out that that's what people were doing when they were in the back of a car. And like that was just a completely random data point that somebody stumbled on and they probably acquired a lot of users. And so I guess my biggest advice is there's a lot of really creative people who have access to a lot of capital in mobile marketing. And I think we need to just like accept that things are different and start to like identify new creative ways to sustainably acquire users versus just trying to like recreate what was there a little bit differently and hold on to it for as long as we can.
Well, we've got the knife. Now we've got the psychologist couch here, and we're laying back. Hey, accept it. Change has happened, and move
Yeah.
on. Love it, Peggy.
Well, I do like it, John, because it's like, yeah, frame it differently. What are they doing while they're using your app, or what are some of those behavior points and signposts to where I could be, a little bit of guerrilla marketing, a little bit of smart marketing, take over the other app title, take over the other, games in Uber. What do you do when you eat? What are we doing when we're watching TV, or Netflix or what have you? Smart, very smart. Let our
Maybe I
behavior
can just
be the
like
guide.
state the most uneducated comment, at least of mine, since the show started, which is like, it's just old marketing, right? Isn't this just what TV marketing was? Like, like we're just
Yeah.
reverting back. Like this is like bell bottoms were out, they're in, they're out again. I don't know, but like, like I think we're just coming back to it. And what made me think about it is the amount of mobile apps, like it's like NFL playoffs in the US, which is like major TV ratings event. And the amount of crypto mobile apps that have been advertised is insane. Like the amount of actual mobile app advertising that's happening on TV now is insane. And it's because they realize that like people who watch sports typically like gambling, people who gamble typically like crypto. And now they're like multi-billion-dollar stadium deals with crypto and advertising their apps. And so it's just old-fashioned contextual advertising. And I think we need to like roll around in it a little bit again.
Excellent. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for taking some time to spend with us. Really do appreciate your insights as well. Always great to dive into the data and to dive into a different perspective than some of the ones we've been hearing in the past.
Yeah, thanks for having with me and putting up with my ridiculous analogies.
I'd say they were fresh, enjoyable, Jonathan. A little bit unconventional. I love challenging conventions. That's what we did. We just said, hey, the way forward is the way back to old marketing. There you go. We're all Don Draper at heart.
I want my 3 martini lunch. I hate martinis, so I don't know why I said that. But anyways, thank you so much, Jonathan. For everybody who is watching or listening, this is Mobile Heroes Uncensored. We've been talking with Jonathan Kay from Apptopia. He's actually the CEO and founder there. That's kind of important, I guess, right, Peggy?
Yeah.
Peggy and Salts is my co-host, and my name is John Katsir. Thank you for listening or watching, and talk to you soon.